sit around so patiently. Don't you see it's not easy? The way you keep teasing me. Don't you know it drives me mad?
Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur nowadays, and it is highly encouraged by most institutions. But what does it really take to make a business? Well, first of all, to start a business, a starting capital must first be established. One obvious way of doing so would be to infuse personal wealth as investments into the business. However, most entrepreneurs don't have that luxury, so they would have to rely on other means of raising capital. One such method would be to use debt capital, or the use of debts to increase capital. As the name suggests, it is done by applying to get money on a loan, which is to be used on a later date. The drawback to relying on debt to increase capital is that lenders, or usually banks, charge a fee known as interest. In order to use the requested funds, borrowers must first pay an additional interest expense aside from the amount borrowed itself. This is typically negotiated before a loan is granted in order to have a clearly defined set of terms for the loan. Another method of increasing capital would be to use equity capital. This method generates cash through the selling of shares of the company. Unlike debt capital, equity capital does not require the company to pay off the investors. Instead, they are required to maintain the ROI, or return on investment, of their stockholders. This is done through maintaining good valuations of the company and through the release of dividends. The drawback to equity capital is that shareholders own a portion of the company. Aside from the board of executives, the shareholders will be responsible for making some of the major decisions in the company. Then, crowdsourcing comes in. Crowdsourcing is a process of connecting with large groups of people via the internet who are tapped for their knowledge, expertise, time, or resources. This idea of reaching out to the crowd isn't new, even before crowdsourcing in the internet.
Oftentimes, people used to collaborate with others. Some people helped because they were seeking a reward for their efforts, or sometimes they just wanted to help. Let's go back to 1740.
Sailing the seven seas was necessary, but really dangerous to navigate. So the British government held a contest asking people for a solution. John Harrison answered that call by inventing a marine chronometer and was awarded a large cash prize. Sailors used the marine chronometer to determine the ship's longitude with the help of the stars in the sky. Let's move a bit forward to 1858. A group of scholars created the first Oxford English Dictionary. It was a huge project and they needed help, so they asked for lots of volunteers to write about different topics according to their expertise, and then they put it all together.
The point is, relying on the crowd isn't really a newfangled idea, but it wasn't until we all got connected that crowdsourcing came about because of the internet. You can reach a lot of people really quickly while also directing and organizing their work. Think of it this way. Crowdsourcing is a way of solving problems and producing things by connecting online with people otherwise we wouldn't know. Anyone can use crowdsourcing. Companies, governments, groups, and individuals. They can use it to grow their organization or support their causes.
There are 4 different ways crowdsourcing works. The first enables you to access a large online labor force. You can identify and select workers, or you can just post your work to let others workers find you. The second allows you to ask the crowd to help you find the solution to a problem. The third is for when knowledge exists but you need help finding and organizing it. The fourth is when you need ideas from the crowd and you need their opinion and feedback.
So, as you can see, there are different ways crowdsourcing works. Crowdfunding, where you can raise capital from many individuals who believe in your venture or cause. each making small donations that add to a lot. When you use crowdsourcing to connect with an on-demand, scalable workforce to perform a broad range of tasks, we call this accessing cloud labor. Open innovation is where you use crowdsourcing to reach diverse and creative people, the new idea generation problem solving. Ever since the advent of the internet, people have been looking for opportunities to make money from it. Crowdfunding is probably the most mature and sophisticated culmination of these efforts thus far. Like social media, crowdfunding is another one of those buzz phrases that has quickly inserted itself into the mass lexicon. So what is crowdfunding and why is it so important?
According to one definition, it's the collective cooperation, attention, and trust by people who network and pool their money and resources together, usually via the internet, to support efforts initiated by other people or organizations. In other words, it's a way for people who need money for projects or businesses to raise money from people will and able to lend it. Nothing fancy there. As you'll notice, however, such efforts completely bypass traditional lending institutions, making it possible for individual lenders to connect directly with borrowers. You see, banks are absolutely skittish about lending. Crowdfunding presents an enormous opportunity for startups and niche interests to receive the capital that they need, and with interest rates near zero, is a chance for lenders to reap potentially outsized returns. Small wonder why the crowdfunding sector has grown from less than $2 billion in 2009 to $8 billion in 2013. And it's expected to keep growing. This means there's a huge chance for everyday investors to make some serious cash. So whether you're an investor or entrepreneur, it makes sense to understand the opportunities crowdfunding presents.
There are three types of crowdfunding classes. The first of them is donation-based. Think of this as the emotional side of the industry. People who make donations through this type of crowdfunding usually do so out of goodwill. The thrill of taking part in an exciting project, or just the enjoyment of helping a cause they're passionate about. Plus, if a product is being produced, donors will often receive one for free. Next, there's peer-to-peer or P2P. This one most closely resembles the traditional vendor-borrower model. In this case, lenders give money to borrowers through a website in exchange for an interest payment. A website or platform acts as a middleman holding the IOU. Lastly, there's equity-based. This is the sharp end of crowdfunding, typically used in startups and ultimately the only area worthy of consideration for a true investor. Investors are offered equity and partnership in an enterprise in return for upfront cash to get it started.
So what kind of things can an investor help to finance and get potentially huge payday through crowdfunding? Just about everything. Clothing, movies, music, gadgets, art projects, video games, technology programs, charities, you name it. No matter what your passion or interest is, chances are there's a crowdfunding opportunity for you and for your friends. But where do these transactions occur? To major players. Investors can finance these projects through specific platforms on the internet. Think of them as a stock exchange of the crowdfunding firm. There are already thousands of these platforms out there, and new ones keep popping up every day. Even so, there are a few big platforms anyone interested in crowdfunding should be aware of. With our financial sector still on shaky ground and lending tighter than ever, crowdfunding has opened up a world of possibilities for those eager to launch an exciting enterprise. And investors looking to run a much better return on investment. It's truly breathtaking development that promises to upend what has been a stodgy and rigid sector, preventing both borrowers and lenders from taking in mutual interest in each other. Risk will remain, but as the sector matures, the big wrinkles will become progressively smoother as platforms keep responding to the mutual needs of investors and entrepreneurs. Bottom line is, crowdfunding is the venture capital of the future, and you've got a chance to get in on the ground floor. Just be wary though, because not all investments can give returns. Till next time, BBC Radio 1.